Bit of a long one here, so strap in. Lots of explaining to do. I have a script here that I'm going to lean on much too heavily, but anyway, here we go. So it is no secret that my stop motion races take forever, and as a consequence, my driver lineups have always been way behind in real life. The field for season 2 was already out of date by race 1 at Daytona, and that was literally years ago. So I have been doing a butt ton of math and rearranging, and after many long hours of intense research and voodoo and mad science, I have finally come up with an updated roster for the remainder of season 2. That is already out of date. Oh well. Anyway, I wanted to do this without dropping anybody from the current Season 2 roster. So all 30 original drivers from the start of Season 2 are still in. They still have rides for the remainder of Season 2. So if you had anybody that you were cheering for this season, do not panic. They are still driving, and they may just not be where you expected. So, without any further ado, I present the super, mega, anachronistic driver lineup of Ultimate Destiny! We're gonna go in number order, just based on the lowest car number on each team. So, first up is Chip Ganassi Racing. So right away, we see some changes here. Kurt Busch is in his familiar 1 car. Jamie McMurray goes back to the 40 he ran with Ganassi in 2019 and also earlier in his career when he drove the Silver Bullet. But for the 42, we are gonna go with Matt Kenseth. So I know it is not his most iconic number, and Ross Chastain is currently driving it in real life, but the field is just already overpacked at 35 cars right now. There's a few notable drivers that technically still have their current rides available this season, but there's just not any room. I mean, there is, but I don't wanna. Sorry. Anyway, Team Penske. No changes here. Brad Keselowski is in the 2, Ryan Blaney in the 12, and Joey Logano in the 22. The only thing is Brad and Joey will be in the Ford Fusion instead of the Ford Mustang, and the reason for that is just I already have way too many diecasts in my collection, and I didn't want to have to buy 2 more cars that were going to be in the same paint scheme. I still want to use the White Miller Blue Deuce and the Penske Scallops. Also, shout out to the Penske Scallops. Okay, so paint schemes these days are never given enough time to become iconic. Even like with Denny Hamlin and FedEx, which is one of the longest standing partnerships that we've had that's currently running, they change it up like every 2 years. Is there really one Denny Hamlin FedEx scheme that you can think of that truly is like the iconic Denny Hamlin FedEx scheme? They switch it up every now and then, and I'm not a big fan of that. I like it when, you know, paint cars are given time, the adequate time to become iconic. And so props to the 22 for staying pretty much the same for about a whole decade by now. Which, by the way, a little fun fact about the Penske Scallops is that they are based on an old Legends car that Kurt Busch used to drive when he was cutting his teeth down at the Las Vegas Bull Ring. So Richard Childress Racing, RCR will keep Austin Dillon in the 3, and Paul Menard, who's another legacy driver, will stay in the 27 since it has not been taken over by any major driver or team. Austin Dillon, I'm just gonna have him in the same SS car that I already have, since again, I already own it. I don't want to spend the money on what amounts to a very minor change. I mean, maybe if I'm just happen to be like perusing a Walmart or Target and I happen to stroll by into the diecast aisle or Hot Wheels aisle and I see an Austin Dillon car and I fall in love with the paint scheme, maybe we'll update the chassis. But until then, like I said, very minor change, so we're gonna keep the current Austin Dillon car that I have. This next one might be a little controversial, so brace yourselves. It's Stewart Haas Racing. Okay, don't panic. Let me explain. You're probably noticing a very conspicuous lack of Tony Stewart here. And do not worry, Smoke fans, he is still around. It'll all make sense later in the video. So yeah, Kevin Harvick in the 4 and Eric Almirola in the 10 as the only Mustang among his Fusion teammates. Call it the R&D car if you want. Then we have Clint Bowyer in the 15. So some of you noticed at Texas and Darlington, we had two 14 cars running, Tony Stewart and Clint Bowyer. For timing and scoring purposes, we're going to consider Clint Bowyer to be driving car number 15. It's one that he's already driven before with Michael Waltrip Racing, so I don't think that's too much of a stretch for people to try and remember. I'm still debating whether or not I want to attempt to modify my existing Clint Bowyer Haas car into actually displaying the number 15. I think I'm going to go ahead and try it out just for simplicity's sake. Go ahead and deface my current 14 car. The 41 car is missing here. And I could have put Cole Custer in it because the 41 is actually available right now in the Goodyear Cup Series, but like I said, it's just, series is too full right now, I didn't feel like it. So Hendrick Motorsports, this one is another one where if you're seeing somebody that is missing, just hang on in the video, it'll all make sense later. So all 4 Hendrick Motorsports drivers at the start of Goodyear Cup Series Season 2 have now retired in real life, but 2 of them, Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson, will remain with Hendrick in the number 24 and 48 Chevy SS's. Joining them in the current Camaros will be Kyle Larson, who will pilot the Hendrick iconic number 5 car. That's the original Hendrick number back in its return to real life. And the real life defending champion Chase Elliott in the number 9. Kyle Larson is probably going to have to be a hastily thrown together custom because I have been looking for this on the internet and like all of its pre-orders, and the earliest date that I can see is like October or something, and I don't want to have to wait until October to get a Kyle Larson to get my updated roster of everybody updated. So I'll probably do that. I have a plan for maybe kind of a fantasy fictional Kyle Larson number 5 that I hope people will easily recognize as Kyle Larson, and maybe it'll kind of be a neat little scheme. But anyway, that is Hendrick Motorsports. So next up, Roush Fenway Racing. Remember when Roush had 5 cars in the Cup Series? We're only 1 away from that now with our fictional Goodyear Cup Series. Ryan Newman is in the number 6 Mustang, then Greg Biffle is in the Legacy 16 Fusion. The next one is a bit of a stretch. We're retaining Trevor Bayne with Roush, so he started the season with Roush in the 6 car, but he's moving to the number 60 team made famous by Roush in the now Xfinity Series. So this one is a custom. You may have seen it in my new chat feature on YouTube. I've posted some pictures of it. So since it was a Mustang when Trevor Bayne drove it in the Xfinity Series, it'll be a Mustang in our fictional world. Finally, Carl Edwards has emerged from his humble Amish doomsday bunker to pilot the iconic 99 car once again. So that one should not be too much of an adjustment. Alright, so Junior Motorsports. So currently NASCAR limits Cup teams to a maximum of 4 cars. Now this is my own fictional world, so I can do whatever I want, but I'm going to adhere to that rule in the Goodyear Cup Series as well. Besides, an 8-car Hendrick Motorsports was a little much. So here's my solution. Junior Motorsports has made the jump up to Cup with a Hendrick Alliance and is fielding 4 cars of their own. If you followed the series website where I kind of post my little fake news articles for our own fictional in-universe stuff, you may have noticed that I had Chase Elliott as driving for as driving for Junior Motorsports in the first part of the season as a way to keep my fictional Hendrick still at 4 cars. So, we've got Danica Patrick back in the 7, Dale Earnhardt Jr. is back in the 8, praise be. But he won't be sponsored by Budweiser. Instead, he'll be driving the Filter Time car that he drove for the iRacing events last summer. It's a little weird, but I thought it was neat that they made a diecast of a completely fictional car, and I happened to be in a Walmart one day just strolling by seeing what they had in the Hot Wheels aisle, and it was there, they had it, so I got it. It also prevents me from having to make another custom, and it frees up car number 88 for Alex Bowman, who will be driving that really cool looking Valvoline car. Totally coincidence, by the way, that I'm wearing my Valvoline uniform. I just figured I'd wear it for the video. Anyway, William Byron is a bit of a challenge for me to shoehorn into the series. So the 24 is taken, and the only other number that he's driven in any of the top series is car number 9, That one's also unavailable. I could have used 224 cars and changed the number for timing and scoring, just like how I'm doing with Clint Bowyer and Tony Stewart, but I didn't want to. I'm a Jeff Gordon fan. He was my guy growing up, and I'm super biased. That cat has been out of the bag since the season 1 finale, so I didn't want to. 24 is kind of sacred to me, so Slick Willy B is going to be driving a number he's never driven before in real life, but one that I think makes a lot of sense to me, at least. 25. The 25 is a classic Hendrick number with guys like Tim Richmond and Ken Schrader, and the 1997 Daytona 500 particularly is probably the most influential race in me becoming a NASCAR fan. So Ricky Craven has a special place in my heart as the pilot of car number 25. So we'll have William Byron in number 25. It's kind of the same thing, just moving the number up 1, but it makes sense for the team he's driving on. As far as paint schemes go, there's not really any sponsor that I associate with Byron specifically, except for the red, white, and blue one, but I'm not using them for reasons that I really don't want to get into in my own channel. That's just personal reasons. Anyway, so what I'm trying to decide is, I've narrowed it down to I think 3 paint schemes that I'm going to do. It's only going to be one of them, but I'm trying to decide between 3 of them. Either the black and gray Imran Exalta car, since he's the only one that's driven a black and gray edition of the Exalta car, so I kind of recognize that as William Byron's edition. Either that one, the Dayglow Cole Trickle throwback, or the white background with blue and red flames Exalta car. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a poll sometime later, probably later today once this video comes out, whenever it happens to come out. So I'll set up a poll, and you guys will get to decide which car William Byron is going to drive. When the decision is made, I'll probably slap a 25 sticker on the side, and I'll just try my best to make it good. So that was a lot of explaining. Thanks for sticking with me there. Moving on. Joe Gibbs Racing. The JGR lineup remains largely unchanged. Denny Hamlin is in the 11, Kyle Busch is in the 18, Martin Truex Jr. in the 19. The only real-life inaccuracy is we're going to keep Eric Jones in the 20. I could have put Jones in the Furniture Row 77 and kept Matt Kenseth in the 20. I mean, the DeWalt colors are definitely more associated with Matt Kenseth, and if I'd done that, I could have added Christopher Bell in the 20 maybe to my, but that's an already bloated field of drivers, so I didn't. Also, I just really like that Craftsman scheme that Jones boy drives. So we're gonna do that. At Sonoma, unfortunately, it's not gonna be the Craftsman scheme. I was trying to peruse eBay and all the other internet sites and just couldn't find that Craftsman scheme. So at some point, I really want to use that one in the Goodyear Cup Series, but it's going to be the Irwin Tool scheme, which is also pretty cool. Anyway, that is it for the multi-car teams. Everyone from here on out is going to be a single car operation, and I am pretty sure many of you have been anxiously awaiting this next one. Tony Stewart Racing. Breathe a sigh of relief, Smoke fans. He is still here. He's still in the 14. Is it a little weird that he's driving for a self-owned team while partially owning another one in our fictional universe? Yeah, but Denny Hamlin is driving for Gibbs while partially owning 2311 with Michael Jordan. I know it's not exactly the same, but it's not that weird. It's my world, and I do what I want.
This is my world! My world!
I was gonna name this team Smoke Motorsports, but then while Googling like Tony Stewart Smoke logos, because I was gonna come up with a fake one, I came across the logo for his sprint car team. I remembered that he owned a sprint car team, and that was a thing that existed. So, why not just use that? So yeah, there's gonna be 214 cars for the time being, unless my William Byron renumbering goes well, and then I'll slap a 15 onto the side of Clint Bowyer. But until then, here's how you tell the two of them apart. Clint Bowyer will be driving a red Ford, while Tony Stewart will be in a Chevy SS, and both of his paint schemes are primarily black.
Everybody got that?
So, Wood Brothers Racing, the oldest active team in NASCAR, will have Matt Benedetto at the helm for a little while longer in real life, and he'll drive the iconic 21 in our fictional world as well. And man, I just really hope Guido can find a good ride next year. I think he's proven he deserves it. He drove a BK Racing Jalopy. He drugged that thing to 6th place at Bristol a few years ago. Darn near won the whole thing in an LFR car last year. Was it last year? Man, 2 years ago. I don't even remember. Time is just non-existent. We're living in a post-time society. Anyway, if not in Cup, I think he at the very least, deserves a competitive Xfinity ride. Anyway, Richard Petty Motorsports. So there's really nothing stopping me from putting Darrell Wallace in the 23 like he is in real life. It's an exciting new team, and I'm really interested to see how they're doing this year. And above in the 23 would mean I could put Eric Jones in the 43 and free up the 20 for Bell or Kenseth, the latter of which would free up the 42 for Ross Chastain. I could do all of this, but I won't. Because reasons. Bubba Wallace to the 43. JTG Daugherty Racing. Wow, that is a mouthful. So Stenhouse Jr. in the 47, just like in real life. And that's all I have to say about that. So Phoenix Racing. AJ Allmendinger drove the Phoenix Racing 51 in 2013, and that's the car that he'll be driving for the remainder of Season 2. Diecasts do exist of the Phoenix Racing 51 that AJ Allmendinger drove in 2013, but none of them in the paint scheme that I really want to use, which is that sweet, sweet, retina-burning Neil Bonnet tribute scheme. I am not looking forward to having to make this custom though. I tried using hot paint spray paint for my Kyle Larson Coors Darlington throwback. It was kind of a disaster. I hope it looked good on screen because I had to do some real damage control with that one. Something about neon spray paint makes it really runny and kind of difficult to work with. You just gotta really do extremely thin coats. It did turn out okay for my Danica Patrick car and my personal Darlington throwback card. So maybe it'll be okay if I just kind of work on it, be really deliberate. Anyway, speaking of me. And now we come to the protagonist of this pathetic self-insert fanfic. Let's talk about Sport Motorsports. First of all, the name. I know it sounds like I'm just trying to be random and silly, but there's actually some butchered that. Anyway, there's some sentimental reason behind the name Sport Motorsports. It's my mom. I've talked about her quite a bit on this channel. She wasn't the one to introduce me to NASCAR. In fact, it really wasn't on her radar until I became a fan. But what started as a mother supporting her son's interest grew beyond that into becoming a fan in her own right. We really bond over NASCAR, and I thought it'd be cool to kind of include her in this fictional team that we are running now. But that still doesn't explain why it's called Sport Motorsports. So, many moons ago, my parents chaperoned a choir tour for high schoolers, and they traveled in multiple vans. If you've ever been on some sort of youth tour, you kind of know how it works. Multiple vans, and my mom's van decided that they would be called the Sports. It was the mid-90s. This naturally led to the high schoolers dubbing my mother Mama Sport, and that nickname has stuck with her many years later, and she even used Sport Motorsports as one of her fantasy teams one year. So there you go. That is why it is called Sport Motorsports. Also, I'm doing a switch from Chevy to Ford, which would have been sacrilegious to a younger me. I have always been a Chevy fan when it comes to motorsports, and don't get me wrong, I still am, but I'm also a Mustang owner in real life, and what can I say, I liked the looks, and it was affordable, and I'm just kind of in this weird place where I'm still a Chevy guy, but I do love my Mustang, and it just didn't feel right to have fictional me drive a Camaro over the Mustang. I mean, yeah, the SS is still an option, but Mustang. Finally, yet another number change. I know I can never decide what number I want to drive, but I've elected to run car number 67, which is one of the least used numbers in all of NASCAR. So again, it's something I can really make kind of my own number. And I went with 67 specifically as a nod to Jeff Gordon's very first Busch Series start in 1990. He qualified second but crashed out, and it was his only ever start with that car number. Enough about me. We still have two more real race car drivers to talk about. So Levine Family Racing. Casey Kane will drive the 95 car for Levine Family Racing, which is the team that he closed out his real-life career with. To make it a little easier to recognize him, we're going to be using that familiar red Evernham paint scheme that he drove in the All-Star race in 2018. And then lastly, we've got Daniel Suarez in the Gaunt Brothers Racing number 96 Toyota. 2020 was not the kindest to Suarez, and I'm excited to see how he does in the 99 with Trackhouse Racing featuring Pitbull in real life. But the 99 is much more closely associated with Carl Edwards, and the 19 is also taken. And while the 41 is available in the Goodyear Cup Series, the 96 is something that is the most recognizably Daniel Suarez to me. Plus, I really like that colorful Comscope car. It's pretty neat. Okay, so there it is, your updated, hopefully not too confusing Season 2 driver roster full of explanations for reasonings which I ignore later on in the same video and which is subject to even more updates as I see fit. Thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all at this roster's debut in Sonoma. Bye con Dios, amigos.